Dan the Hangman Hooker is going in there against the KSW double champ, almost triple champ himself, Salahdine Parnasse. This guy is a French superstar. I honestly didn't really know much about him. Maybe I'm just a casual, but I've looked him up. He was on the Netflix MMA card. This guy is a fucking marauder. This guy is a beast. I'm worried for Dan Hooker. I'm worried for Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker is one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. Obviously, Kiwi guy, bit dodgy on the dating sites, old Dan. Bit dodgy on the dating sites, bro. Come on, dog. You got a wife. Who am I to judge, though? Who am I to judge? He's a great fighter. He's a fun fighter, an exciting fighter. Puts it on the line every time he goes out there. But Salahdine Parnasse is quick. He is quick. He is fast, and he can mix stuff up. If you're getting clipped by Benoit Saint Denis, one of the slowest fighters in UFC lightweight history, then I do worry a little bit for you against a guy like Salahdine Parnasse. This takes me to the UFC signing such a big star. It's genuinely insane. From what I'm looking at online, Salahdine Parnasse was getting like 600k per fight at KSW. So for the UFC to match this, or give him slightly less, but then give him favorable matchups like Dan Hooker, is quite insane. We've seen the UFC lowball these guys, these big stars from other promotions before. But we've also seen them get treated very nicely. Kaya Sakura, unranked, walks into a title fight. So it does happen. It does happen. And Salahdine Parnasse is the latest in this line of favorable treatment. He's going in there against number 9 ranked Dan the Hangman Hooker. People are looking at Dan Hooker in the rankings like he's some sort of joke and like he's some sort of easy fight. People forget, man. He was winning that fight against Benoit Saint Denis. He was winning that fight, and he almost had Arman in a couple solid guillotines, even though Arman really just destroyed him. He is on a 2-fight losing streak, or is it 3? I think it's 2. He lost to Arman, and then he lost to BSD, right? It's a tough spot for Dan Hooker, and it really is going to be a tough fight for him against Salahdine Parnasse. But he was looking good against BSD, and it was really only because he shot a takedown, poor fight IQ, that he ended up losing that fight. He ended up on bottom, and then he ended up getting beaten up on. Seems like he might like being on bottom a little bit too much, old Dan Hooker. But he ended up on bottom, and he ended up getting the shit beaten out of him, and then Goddard stopped the fight. Or was it Herb Dean? It was a fucking late stoppage. Dan Hooker lost 3 of his 10 remaining brain cells. And it was tough to watch, but he did look good in that fight. He did look good. The teep to the body was actually looking like it hurt BSD quite a lot. And that's one of the main reasons I picked Paddy to beat BSD, because BSD actually looked quite beatable in that Dan Hooker fight. But it really is testament to not how shit BSD is. BSD is legit. It's testament to how good Dan Hooker is. Dan Hooker is fucking legit. This guy beat Matus Gamrot, right? This guy's beaten Jalen Turner. This guy went to war with Dustin Poirier, almost knocked him out, right? There's a lot of great wins on the resume of Dan Hooker, but I look at Dan and I just think, aging fighter. You can hear it in his voice. You can see it in his face. The scar tissue is prevalent. He's taken a lot of damage over the course of his career, and I do worry for the chin. He looks like a guy that cuts a lot of weight for lightweight and to make that 155-pound limit. So I do really worry. And Salahdine Parnasse, the highlight reel on this bloke is absolutely insane. Knockout after knockout. And he's a guy that can mix in the takedowns too, which is something that Dan Hooker's struggled with in the past. So it's going to be a tough fight for Dan Hooker. I'm leaning towards Salahdine Parnasse. Obviously, I'm going to root for Dan Hooker. But this is major news in the lightweight division. And it really makes the lightweight division one of the most exciting divisions in the UFC right now. We have guys like Quillen Salkild rising through the ranks, even Tom Nolan rising through the ranks. Ilia Topuria is there. Arman Sarukian's there. You got Paddy Pimblett and obviously the champion Justin Gaethje. Conor McGregor is always there, potentially to come back. Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, like the names go on and on. But Salahdine Parnasse is trying to join the league, trying to join the rankings, and it's going to be a tough fight. It really is going to be a tough fight. If it ends in the first round, obviously it's going to be Parnasse just sliming him out and Hooker's got no chin. But if it gets into that second and third round where you go into deep waters with Dan Hooker, I think he can really get tested because he's never really been tested against guys that are extremely high level. Obviously KSW is a high level promotion, but there aren't that many crazy names on old Parnasse's resume. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being a casual here, but there aren't that many crazy names on his resume, whereas Dan Hooker has fought the who's who of the lightweight division for a decade. For a decade, this guy's been in there with the absolute best, swinging and punching his way to victories, to close fights, and to some defeats. Dan Hooker's been in there and he's got the experience. So that's really one of the only things that Dan Hooker has going for him in this fight. He doesn't have the physicality advantage. He doesn't have the skill advantage. He doesn't have the age advantage. He probably doesn't have the hunger advantage. He's got the experience advantage though. And sometimes the unk prevails. Sometimes the unk prevails and the new guy gets absolutely fraud checked and Dan Hooker's the man again. But we'll have to see what happens. Let me know what you guys think about this fight in the comments below. Absolutely crazy work from the UFC to sign a KSW double champ. A guy who is earning $600,000 per fight. I doubt they matched that, but I'm pretty sure they gave him probably like 200, 300K and said, we'll give you a ranked opponent and a couple fights. You'll have a title shot. So it's a very interesting proposal from the UFC that Parnasse has taken up. You know, you can see what the UFC is trying to go for here. They recognize that Parnasse is one of Netflix MMA's biggest name, and they stole that shit. That's what I do. I stole that shit. They're taking that away from them so they can have him, they can have the star, and they can have the monopoly on MMA fighters. It's what the UFC does. It's what the UFC does best. And they know that fighters always want to fight for them because you're a UFC fighter, you can get more sponsorships, you can get better contracts. People care about you more eyeballs on you. So even if Parnasse has taken a pay cut to fight in the UFC, he's going to have more eyes on him. He's probably going to end up making more money in the future just because of the nature of the UFC. Who's watching? You know, Dan Hooker's a massive star in and of himself. This is going to introduce Parnasse to the world, whereas he's only really known in France. So it is a smart move from Parnasse, and it is a good move business-wise and from an athlete perspective as well. Taking a fight against Dan Hooker is probably the easiest fight in the top 10 that he could get because I wouldn't favor him against Gamrot. You know, I wouldn't favor him against a guy like Charles Oliveira. You know, these guys have insane performances at the highest level of the UFC. So does Dan Hooker, but he's just looking a lot more beatable as he's getting older and a lot more hittable. And the chin is not there anymore. It's not there anymore. You know, it's never really been there. You know, he went down to 145, got knocked out by Arnold Allen. Chandler slimed him out, one of Chandler's only wins in the UFC. Dan Hooker's looking like he might be the next Tony Ferguson, and I hate to say it, but I really think Salahdine Parnasse is going to go out there and do some fucking nasty work on Dan Hooker. But let me know what you guys think about this fight in the comments below. Big news. Like and subscribe. I'll see you boys in the next one. Much love.